Almanac, a rap show. I got opinions and they all factual. No news, just information that you won't be able to use unless you're at a dinner party trying to impress who's in attendance with endless tidbits of nonsense. We're gonna have a good time, I promise. YouTube rabbit holes, Reddit deep dives, pulling out old interviews from the archives. Styles, fads, trends, all of that. It's the Almanac of Rap.
Welcome to the Almanac of Rap, the show that is definitely on a different type of time. I'm your host, Donwill, and today's guest is a Brooklyn native whose reputation as an artist has been cemented for years. This year alone, he dropped the critically acclaimed Different Type Time and the Death Tape. He's also been on the road a lot these days, so if you see him coming to your city, get some tickets. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Cav to the show.
What's going on, man?
It's good, man.
Peace, brother.
Good to have you.
Thank you. Same. Happy to be here.
So you're here now, like just for a short visit to New York?
Yeah, just for a couple days.
Okay. Business,
through.
pleasure? What?
A little bit of both. Linked up with homeboy Sandman, actually. That was pretty dope. And now I'm a little delayed because of the impending hurricane that's supposed to pass through my home city. So,
what's the hurricane's name?
Hurricane Francis.
Francis?
I believe is or Tropical Storm Francis.
Okay.
It's supposed to pass through the South. So
I know one was Burrow that just passed through somewhere, I think.
Man, I couldn't even tell you.
So many weird things. But how's homeboy Sandman doing? He's good?
I love that dude, man. Great to talk to him. You know, just a great thinker. I always get gems when I talk to him, so really good, yeah.
Homeboy Sandman, you gotta come through.
Yeah, man.
I gotta hit him up.
I mentioned it to him, so yeah, I think he's going to.
We email a lot.
Okay.
We email a lot. Like we text sometimes, but we email a lot.
Yeah, man. He's on it. That's probably the best way to get him, actually.
Yeah. But so let's get into it, man. Mm-hmm. You dropped 2 albums this year. This year, right?
And counting, yes.
Yeah.
I have a third on the way.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Third on the way. All right. So, but the one that I want to talk about right now is Different Type Time.
Mm-hmm.
The joint that dropped on Backwoodz, and it was a long time coming, and the album was absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
Great album.
Thank you.
But so how did you link up with Backwoodz?
Twitter suggestions. I put out a feeler on Twitter when I knew I had an album that didn't have a home. I've never dropped a record with a label before. Yeah. Everything I've done up until this point has pretty much been on my own, like independent for real. Not like I'm saying I'm indie and I'm secretly financed.
Yep.
So I just put out a feeler on Twitter, like who should I put this record out with? What labels? And people were responding, but Backwoodz came up a few times. And when it did, Quelle and I both were like, yo, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. You know, I've seen Woods around through the years just being an artist in the New York scene, and there were increasing overlap with like collaborations with Quelle, you know, just a lot of tie-ins, and it felt like a homecoming suggestion, you know? Yeah,
and Backwoodz is such like a indie powerhouse.
Yes.
That I think it makes sense, because the other thing about Backwoodz is that it's like an indie label of that nature. Like it's just, you see Woods, you see Backwoodz. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that collaboration for you made a lot of sense to me, because I know you to being like the direct to consumer. You get it on the website, get it from you in person. So that was fire. How long did it take for the album to come together? You said it was already done when you started looking for a label.
Yeah, it was already done. I actually started working on it in 2021 during the pandemic. It took about maybe a year to complete, but we didn't release it right away. When I found out that Backwoodz was interested in being its home, it was time to now strategize what was best. And they also had other releases on the queue. And we really wanted to give it a long runway. Like I didn't want to rush and squeeze it in between releases. So I didn't mind waiting. You know, initially we were going to drop it in September of 2023, and instead we put it out April of 2024.
Okay. So you're pretty patient with the art.
Yeah, I want to make impact more than anything. Yeah, for sure.
So are you the type of person that will have a project and sit on it for like months, a year before you deliver it, because you want to make sure it's couched correctly?
Not intentionally. Working on like breaking out of perfectionist ways, right? At the same time, through my career, I've chosen, for better or worse, to focus on things that I felt made an impact. Like my biggest fear was making records that didn't matter. And I think my entry point, particularly at the time as a young artist where I was coming into the landscape of things, everyone was like passing out CDs, you know? Fat Beats still existed in New York City. You saw rappers doing their best to like hawk their albums in front of it. Or you go to Manhattan, Midtown, or Times Square, and people were handing you CDs, and they would sell them. Mm-hmm. But I always wondered if people actually listened to them, because they were like soliciting you, right? Like, yo, you listen to hip hop, man? You listen to hip hop? And some of those cats I've known, like, you know,
Creature.
Perfect example,
OG,
man.
Yeah.
OG with the hustle, right? And it's, on one hand, I'm like, yo, I really respect the hustle, right? Like, you got to put yourself out there. But as an artist, I always, it remained to be seen about the other part of an artist's journey, being fulfilled, actually having some connection with your audience. I didn't know if that part was covered in that strategy.
And as an artist myself, and kind of being not really into doing that thing myself either, like, I didn't really see the impact of it either. Like, in a lot of ways, it felt like you were just kind of like casting a fishing line.
It's a wide net. It's just a different strategy. A wide net, you may get some bites, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like, I wanted to harpoon the big fish. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
a good way to put it.
Yeah, I didn't, I was like, you know, maybe it's like a Moby Dick thing, right? Like, I put so much thought into it. I'm sure every artist does, but for me, that's how I felt. And the proof of that was that, you know, I put out a demo as the first set of recordings. People, you know, I told people it was an album, but it was really my demo. It was the first time I ever recorded anything. And that body of work gave me a very strong base to build from. You know, for those who did receive that work, it mattered to them. And I was like, I have something here. So it was a slower cook, but I felt like everything I put out mattered to those who were listening. Yeah,
because I got to New York probably in 09 or 10, somewhere around there. And I don't remember specifically when I met you, but I remember knowing about you. And there wasn't like the streaming wasn't the thing and all that stuff. And CDs were hard to come by, but I didn't really know your music. I just knew you. And I knew you were like a dope MC. And like, you came highly regarded. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, I'm learning that now. The bio that Backwoodz put out spoke a lot to that. People have been asking me about it. And to be honest, when I read it, I didn't know I was viewed that way a lot of the time, right? Like, it was kind of like a studio lore that kept me relevant with a lot of my artistic peers, because I would show up to people's studios, but I didn't necessarily have a catalog of my own or an album of my own to back it up with yet. You were absolutely one of those people who was like, why don't you have an album out? Like, it was one of those things, and it was just like, man, the game is so fucked up. This Cav don't got an album out. But it was now I'm learning it was like a choice to remain independent and kind of control your own thing. I had the demo that I was masquerading as an album, and it opened up a lot of doors that meant a lot more later on. Like, you know, Daru Jones was one of the first producers to ever give me beats, right? Wow. And people don't realize that. And now you mentioned that he's like such a big figure, especially, you know, as a drummer and a producer. And not only did he give me beats, but he played drums on my record. You know, I was able to get a lot of that type of support as a younger artist, including even where I could go record and hone my skills in Brooklyn. Like, other artists invested in me, I think, hoping for me to take a certain track. And I did the best I could, you know, at the time, you know what I mean? So. Long game, that investment paid off. So, for sure. Because right now we're on a different type time. Get back to that real quick. So, with the album, the thing that I noticed about you is you have a really dynamic delivery. And I've done this for a while, but it keeps you on your toes a little bit. Like, sometimes you'll switch up your voice or your flow to kind of play a different role in the song, like kind of like different voicing. And it tricked me, because at one point, like, sometimes you have these interludes, like field recordings of other people rapping, floating into songs. So the first one I heard, I was like, is that Cav? And then I started noticing like, oh no, these are just different MCs. My question is about the field recordings themselves. Like, how do they tie into the theme, and who are the people? Okay, so I have this phenomenon that follows me. Older black men talk to me. You know, I don't know if it's where I live, but it doesn't just happen in the city I reside. And it happens so much that I really pay attention to those moments, because there are a lot of gems. And I think, just personally, I have a reverence when I run into older black men, because I'm like, yo, you here? You made it. You know what I'm saying? After a certain age, I'm like, yeah, you made it. That means you survived a bunch of things, depending on what age group you're in. You were a teenager in the 60s. That means you really survived some things, right? So I listen to these older black men, and I record them a lot. And pretty much a lot of the projects I made since Lemonade, you hear these recordings. So people think that they're like downloaded recordings, which is really popular too with producers to find, you know, found recordings, right?
But most times when you hear people talking on a record, they're talking to me.
Okay.
You know, Death Tape, you know, Lemonade, Private Stock, Different Type Time. So part of the Different Type Time journey was me just getting my mind right, honestly, at that part of the pandemic. And it didn't all start with recording music. Some of it was now me exploring, taking some photos and doing things that stepped outside of my comfort zone. And I did a lot of time-lapse photography, which requires you to be super patient. You have to, you are filming for a long time to get a small result. And in doing so, I would go city to city. And in one day, particularly, I had a long layover in Detroit en route to Dallas. And both of the recordings you hear on Different Type Time of these men happened on that one day. When I got to Detroit, this brother stopped to talk to me, and he was making, you know, I guess small talk. And then in the conversation, he mentioned, you know, most people don't talk to me because, you know, they see me, they know I'm homeless. And I was like, I didn't even know you were homeless, you know? So we just started chopping it up. And that's when he was like, you know, you mind if I share something with you real quick? I thought he was going to sing. And
this was just unprovoked. Like he didn't see you filming a video.
Well, he saw my collaborator doing an architectural time lapse. So he walked past. He was like, you know, we built all that. And I was like, what you mean? He's like, you know, the ancient Egyptians. So he went there with it. And I was like, oh yeah, I already know, you know. You know, so I could go there. So we went there and just started chopping it up. And that's when he mentioned, you know, he invited me to come see him sing at the church. And I was like, well, I don't live here. We're on our way to the airport. You know, we just taking pictures. And he's like, can I do something for you right now? And I was like, sure. You mind if I record? He was like, go ahead. And I thought he was going to sing. And then he was like, Ricky Ricardo, baby, I'm home. And then he started rapping. And I was just like, oh shit. Like, so that happens. And then that same evening, we fly to Dallas. We get to Dallas. I'm in Deep Ellum. We're chilling, just literally chilling. And this other unhoused gentleman was walking with his companion, and he saw me from a distance. And he started screaming like, I know you. You rap. And I was like, shit. You don't know me, man. Like, you know what I mean? And he's like, you rap, right? And I was like, yeah.
Heavy and Deep Ellum.
Yeah. And he just started pouring his heart out for like 20 minutes straight. Like he rapped continuously for more than 8 minutes, and people started filming, but it was really clear he was talking specifically to me. And it wasn't, you know, you listen to the record, he's rapping about hardship in his life. Yeah. He's telling his story. And I just feel like a lot of times, especially in this era, like Black men want their stories told. You know, to me, that's kind of related to this generational boom with podcasts. You know, you're seeing a lot of our OGs and icons finally be able to deliver stories that they couldn't years ago. And with the fatalism in hip hop, I think it's really important that we see what's being contributed to like the cultural archive right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you think about how many hip hop artists in general we lose every year, like, and then when you think outside of hip hop, how many Black men we lose. Like,
you see what I'm saying? And what are these men's stories, right? So unfortunately, I didn't get both of those brothers' names. I don't think so. I think afterwards we looked back in the footage and we did see one of them did say his name after we had already published the work. But I was like, yo, I'm putting them on the album. In fact, they're the only rap features on the album. Yeah.
That was another thing. I was thinking about that. Like, man, to be signed to Backwoodz, this was like an intentional project for you. Like, I want to do a specific thing. I'm not like coming here to get features or whatever. I'm coming here for the album out.
I spoke about that with Woods. And one thing about Woods, man, he's like Professor X with it, man. Like, I felt like I got called in the assemblage of the X-Men, you know, and he gave me full range to do what I do. You know, I was already coming with a project that didn't go with the rules, I guess, or what was being suggested in the current landscape for releasing music for like Spotify or streaming platforms. You know, the album's 21 tracks. It's an hour long. Like, I remember just before releasing it, I seen a viral video where an influencer or someone was saying like, don't put out no albums. There's 20, literally the opposite of everything I did. And then, you know, critical acclaim followed that. So I just trusted my gut.
You were on a different type time.
I was on a different type time, yo.
So the album was out. It came out in April. It's been in the world for a couple of months. What's one thing, if anything, that you've learned from the album or from the process or from this piece of music, this body of work?
I think people respect sincere intention. And I think that can come across in art, even if you're not someone super adept at that art form. You know, I've been in these touring opportunities I've had recently were with other artists. I'm seeing a lot of new fans, but I'm leaving and they're buying like my double vinyl off of a first time seeing me perform. So something is translated in that sense, which I'm really proud of, you know. On the other hand, it's just reaffirming to trust your gut creatively, you know. I think it just resonates when people know it's genuine.
Yeah, you've had a whole career of trusting your gut because like just the intentionality of being vigilantly independent and then like going with a label that's also vigilantly independent and then at the same time releasing the death tape.
Yeah.
Like on your own, like on that same independent wave. The thing about the death tape is that is it the second outing with you and Quelle? Like, cause so would Black Cottonwood be considered?
Yeah, so Black Cottonwood is Death Tape 1.
Okay.
And Death Tape 2 is We Gonna Need Each Other. And both projects, particularly the first one, was completely unplanned. I went to Quelle's crib to just catch up on tour footage, and we have a thing about assuring that we, you know, tap in with each other. There's a lot of connection, there's a lot of symmetry, you know, there's a lot going on creatively, you know, when we get together. And you've been there for that, you know what I'm saying? So we make sure to check in. We speak almost, you know, every other day. So I went to go see him for that. But while we were together at his crib, we actually recorded, we made all the beats, recorded everything, and wrote everything for Black Cottonwood in like 70 hours.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it was unplanned. We just hit a spell. We were even taking shifts, you know. It would be a thing like Quelle might be up late finishing a beat, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go sleep. I'm gonna wake up at 5 in the morning and I'm gonna come and lay down the verse on the beat you was working on. And then I'm gonna wake you up. We're gonna make breakfast like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? I heard Doom and Madlib used to get down like that.
Yeah, they did.
So it just, it didn't feel exhausting. And then on the way home, I had a little layover in the middle of the night in Atlanta in the airport. And that's when I built the site and like just launched it.
Oh wow. So that's that's the type of shit that's really inspiring to me. Yeah. It's to just know like you can just pour something into a project from like your soul and your creativity and be like, all right, I'm putting it out now.
Yeah, but we needed to make Death Tape. Like, I think it's...
Are you talking about one or... No, you're talking about the new one. Okay.
Both of them. They both happen the same way. It's just a matter of... this was like trust your gut to the extreme. With Quelle, I think we knew we needed to put something out in the world, not just as artists, but also as businessmen, as also in the catharsis of like, yo, we got a lot going on, and this is what has been given to us to transmute all that energy. We have these gifts, we respect them, and we'll feel better somehow. We don't know what the end result is going to be. So we just made it. And then we made it, and literally like it opened so many, I mean like it made thousands of dollars in like 40 hours, you know what I mean? It ended up getting pressed into a vinyl. It just led to so many things.
Yeah, and it also, it's like a collector's piece.
Yeah, definitely.
It becomes a thing that like for a true fan and a true like supporter, it's a thing of pride that you have.
Yeah, we sold out the domestic copies. I think there's still some copies in Europe available. But I think it's also just, it's a collector's piece because it's a moment. Like, exactly. I'm really about making real moments too with people that they can connect to, you know?
So my question is like that Brotherhood with Quelle, like he was like had a big role in
Different Type Time. Absolutely.
Like, so where does that creative brotherhood come from? Because like, again, when we did
Niggas Is Men
and all the videos and all that, hanging out and shit, like doing those sessions, like y'all were telepathic there. Like, and the same things with me and Bond, it was just like, okay, this is like a thing.
Yeah, I can't say where it comes from. You know, it's funny when it comes up, it's probably all over different interviews, but the first time I spoke to Quelle was on the phone. And we just knew, I don't know, man, it was like kismet. I spoke to him on the phone and we had a really real conversation. I still remember where I was standing till this day. And I knew, this brother's gonna be in my life. You know what I'm saying? And a couple months later, I went to go see him in the Bay Area, and like right away we had to do like real things, like help him move out. And like, it was just like, it wasn't like, oh, we're gonna make some music. Like, nah, you gotta help me move. And like, you know, I don't know if the verb is suffer, but it's like the creative thorn in the brain thing, right? Like I tell people that Quelle and I are the types that we're gonna create something anyway. Even when we made Niggas Is Men, we didn't know we were gonna I didn't know that was gonna be the album he submitted for the first record on his deal. You know what I'm saying? We were just at my crib. Ironically, the, Hurricane,
Was it Sandy?
Sandy.
Yeah.
He landed the day after Sandy. We didn't even know his plane would make
shit.
it. Yeah, we had a show, and then like Sandy happened, and we still kind of did the show even though the city was shut down. And he decided to stay at my crib for like, I guess, like, you know, a month or two. And that's when we started working on these recordings, and we just was making them.
Yeah.
And then it became that record. And a lot of people, including yourself and Von Pete, came through. I think that the word started to get out, like, yo, they cooking up something in there.
Yeah,
because like even people who didn't make the record had came through around that time. Like the list is long, you know what I mean?
Like I feel like when we were, Homeboy Sandman might have been there when we were there.
I don't know if he came, but that's possible. I know Rockless Monster pulled up, Fresh Daily, who's on the record.
Yeah.
I Love McConan pulled up. I mean, like Susie Analog, but people who are not even, I think Susie might have ad-libs on the record. A lot of people were pulling up around that time.
Like that sort of energy around creating a project is fun to have.
Oh, it's amazing.
Even when they don't make the album, like their presence kind of like influences.
Yeah, I got to meet Sean Price in person around that time. I don't know if I would have even have met him. There was also an energy too. I think people knew they were starting to see Quelle's like versatility as a creative. Right, that he didn't just rap, that he also was an amazing producer. So people were just inviting us or like being tuned into what we were doing.
I remember when he got to New York, I think it was Jean was like, you have to meet Quelle.
Yeah.
And she was like, and we saw each other like, people say we look alike.
Oh.
We were face to face like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. That's why when y'all did the video, I was like, finally someone listens to the, like,
I watch that video every so often.
Oh man, it's hilarious. One of my favorites.
It's hilarious. It's also like that moment in time.
Yeah,
it was such a good time.
Yo, such a good time, man. Yeah. And we still, that's why Death Tape 2, because Denmark's in that video.
Yeah.
And Death Tape 2 features Denmark.
I was going to ask about that. Like, how did Denmark get wrapped up into Death Tape 2?
Well, Denmark and Quelle obviously have long history.
Crown
Nation and Moselle. Shout outs to Moselle. And when I met Denmark and when I met Quelle, I also was privy to Denmark. And I learned about their history. And I felt like it was a mirror world to some of my come-uppings and where I was recording and stuff like that. So that was part of the energy of everything kind of feeling like it was meant to be. And in the same scenarios, like we needed to make Death Tape 1, Death Tape 2 was the same. I think for a lot of people that spring window, like March into April of this year, was like a lot of transitions, just a lot of things happening at once energetically. And that was our response. And Denmark was in the midst of that. And this was our opportunity to feature him.
I haven't bought the record yet. Mm-hmm. I bought the first one. I always buy them. But like, I'm excited to listen to it because I want to hear I haven't heard Denmark.
Oh, Denmark's amazing, man. And personally, I think it's a really beautiful listen in its entirety. It's funny. Homeboy Sandman yesterday was telling me how he does his best to ingest projects like a couple tracks at a time. You know, things are busy, you're artist creating your own works. And it's just so happened that every track he clicked on happened to be one with like some old man talking to me and not the songs. But I was like, yo, that's really a part of the project. Like you really got to listen to it in its entirety, you know?
Yeah. And like so the intentionality of listening is a thing that I've been kind of like really locking into. Yeah. Because I DJ a lot too. So now it's like I intake so much music that it affects my output sometimes. But
it's hard. It's hard to switch gears. It's
very hard. So I'm really trying to like make sure that I'm like listening when I want to listen, like the same as I'm like eating when I'm hungry, you know what I'm saying? Like sleeping when I'm tired, making sure I have that intentionality.
Yeah, me too, man. I gravitate to the things that I know are going to be a real listen anyway. So I want to set the stage and really give my attention to it, you know?
And last question about the Death Tape is why the title is Death Tape?
That's from Quelle. It's a tangent from his Death Fame record. And that's going to be like the springboard, I think, to the Death Fame imprint. And when we made Death Tape Black Cottonwood, Quelle was savvy enough to be like, it's a series. So that's why it was Death Tape 1 Black Cottonwood. We didn't know what Death Tape 2 would be. In fact, what I thought Death Tape 2 was going to be was not what it was. Because we actually had a bunch of recordings that I thought was going to be Death Tape 2. And that might end up being something else. But Death Tape 2 was made just as organically as Death Tape 1. In fact, I had to record all of my parts in the same day because I was on tour. So I did all of my parts for Death Tape 2 like on the same day.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like had to write them and record them.
I'm probably listening to it this weekend.
Man.
All right, so moving on. Recently, this is a hard transition. We're just going somewhere else. But you recently moved to New Orleans.
Yes.
And New Orleans is also home to the Super Bowl next year.
Yes.
And I don't know if you were following the news.
I caught some of the sprinklings. Yeah.
You know that Kendrick is performing, and people are like, it should be Lil Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
So as the New Orleans resident on the Almanac of Rap today, you have to make the final decision. Who's performing, Kendrick or
Wayne?
Wayne?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Wayne, you got the call. Wayne, Kendrick, I'm sorry.
Kendrick's great, man, but you know, New Orleans. I mean, let's put it like this: if it was in Los Angeles and it wasn't Kendrick, we would be in just as an uproar, especially after the year Kendrick had. Yeah. You know, so. Wayne.
All right, so Wayne, 100. Here we go. But seriously, you did move to New Orleans this year. I mean, a little while back, not this year. I'm wondering what your experience has been as like a new resident, a transplant over in New Orleans.
Wow, that's loaded. On one hand, it recontextualizes what gentrification means. You know, I got like complicated thoughts and ideas about gentrification because it's a theme that comes up in my art, and it's something I've observed as a Brooklyn resident and a Brooklyn native. The same time as when you travel as often as I do, you see that template that was perfected in Brooklyn has been shopped on other cities. But with New Orleans, it's a cultural war. You know, you can't just go to New Orleans and be like, we're going to develop it like this and move everybody out. You're talking about a city that is actually the birthplace of American culture, essentially. You know what I mean? So it's more of a culture war there. And I do my best to move mindfully of that because yes, I'm Black, but I'm also not from New Orleans. Right. I don't lean into like assuming that just because I'm of color that, you know, I got the hot take on how to move as a person residing in New Orleans. So I kind of take the lead from those who are from there on a lot of things. And it's present in my art too. You know, just New Orleans is a city and an energy.
Yeah. Have you tapped into the musical community there at all?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot going on there and a lot that doesn't always get highlighted. First of all, there's some spitters in New Orleans beyond like who we know, like real rappers, for real. So there's that. There's also a really great like Black dance scene there that I think people wouldn't realize. And not just bounce, you know what I mean? Like almost like Black rave, like, you know, techno and house. And like there's a lot going on in New Orleans. It's a small city, but with big spirit, right? When people are not from there, they misgauge how big the city is. It's less than 500,000 people.
It's tiny.
It's real small. Like Brooklyn got 3 million people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of activity there.
It's a lot of activity, and the thing that I found really fascinating is that a lot of people are just musicians. Like it's just they're working musicians, or they just play for enjoyment.
So
listen, they'll just show up with a horn.
New Orleans, it'll be a dude that's a killer. Yeah, he's a straight up killer, and he'll pull a horn out. He know how to play. Yeah. So I'm like, yo, these cats in Brooklyn, like, what kind of life skills you got? You know what I'm saying? Like, he know how to play a horn. He could kill you, but he could play at your funeral too.
That should be on your second line.
Yeah, it's your second line. But you know, New Orleans got it like that. People know how to play an instrument.
So you said you have some new stuff coming out. We're gonna touch on it in a minute. But is it influencing the music that you're making now, like living in New Orleans?
I'm sure it is. Okay. It definitely did in the Private Stock project that kind of put me more in a critical acclaim space. New Orleans is stamped all over that.
You're right, and like the videos and all that stuff.
Everything, just everything. Yeah. And even the people that
Beautiful album, by the way.
Thank you. The people that were in those visuals are all playing versions of themselves. And that's what I aim to do when I show anyone. It's another way to show storytelling in our art and music that, you know, if someone who's maybe a casual rap fan, you know, we make, at least me and mine, we make a lot of dense hip hop, right? But there's other ways for the energy and the storyline to come out. And I was really inspired by certain filmmakers when I started making music, especially like 2014 was like my debut formal release, Chief. And the visuals I did for that, I stopped rapping at the camera, not because I thought it was whack. I just didn't think that it represented what I was putting out there. So I haven't really rapped at the camera since then. And it allowed the visuals that I make, because I write and make these visuals, it allowed me more room to stretch and expand the storytelling. Yeah,
that's something that I wanted to touch on, but I definitely didn't prepare enough for it to talk about. But like your history with film, like, cause what's that? You and Shaka put out a thing.
Yeah, Shaka King, man.
The Mullions, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is your tie to film? Like, outside of it being like a creative expression medium, like, how do you How are you into that world?
I've been around some of the best filmmakers, just coincidentally. You know, Shaka King is probably the closest thing I have to a big brother.
Okay.
So I watched him go through the process of developing his skill set. But what people don't know is he produced on my demo. You know, that he used to make beats.
I did not. Wait, I did know he used to make music.
And he's also a person who, when he's writing movies, he listens to vinyl. And I used to live above him for many, many years. Like, we kind of had that relationship. Like, literally his bedroom is downstairs from mine, you know?
Yeah.
So he plays vinyl while he's writing. And similarly, when I'm writing, it's visual for me a lot of times. Like, I see my raps, or like I like, it's almost like they're just coming down. You know what I mean? Homeboy Sandman was talking about that. It's almost like you're just divining it.
Yeah.
You know, he talked about, like, you don't even know what's gonna happen sometimes in the process. That's how you know it's coming from somewhere else. It's like I'm just tuning in to hear the song, and I'm trying to capture the song. But a lot of times I'm seeing it too. And I think maybe having that proximity to observe passionate filmmakers that translate cross medium, because even Quelle, he does animations, right? So there's a lot of visual input there. And I think I got better at learning how to execute that in the ways that I wanted, and how I don't really see them separate, like the music and the film components or the lyrics. Like, it's all one thing to me.
It's all one thing. Yeah. And as you're creating it, you know what, you kind of know what.
Yeah, and when different type time happened, I was like, they don't even have to happen in a specific order. There were visuals I did before the song happened with different type time, you know?
All right, so we're gonna move on to weed spots.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because Chief, you know what I'm saying? But after seeing your Bring Back Weed Spots campaign, the sweatshirts, which I think are really dope.
Thank you.
I already know what the answer is to this question, but how does it feel to see weed legal in New York?
Confusing. That's the word.
Confusing as fuck.
Confusing. It's confusing because there's so many layers, man. It's, you know, you got 11-year-olds on their way to school stopping in the bodega harassing you to get weed, like how, you know, Jay and Silent Bob had to shoo away teenagers trying to get them to buy a 40 ounce or something. Yeah. It's like that's going on. So you got that level. You got, like, you know, Ak is Poppy now. That's what I have. That's like my, you know, rappers used to rap about Poppy, right? Like getting all their drugs from Poppy. And now, like, Ak is Poppy now. Like Ak used to make, like, my egg sandwich, and now, like, now Ak is like, you get an eighth of the exotics and it's okay, sort of. I don't know, man. It's really crazy. And then, you know, New York is just a wild place. Like, any scam, con, or scheme that New York is already proliferated with now applies to weed now, right? So you got, like, I don't know, it's just madness happening. You got bootlegging of strains and brands. Cannabis brands are being bootlegged heavily in areas like this, you know?
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing, but I bought like a can of a tin of sativa gummies, like Kiva Confections is a brand.
Right, I'm familiar. Yeah,
love them. And I bought a 10 of them. They were kind of cheap, and this dude was like, "This one's probably fake."
Yeah, it's definitely fake.
Like, what do you mean they're fake?
It's fake. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, "Not fake."
Yeah, we're gonna print up the labels, and, you know, but also New York helped speed up the bag game, right?
Yeah.
Now you're paying for packaging.
Yeah.
It's like it's like the cereal aisle now, you know, and there's just so many things that's problematic with that, because if you're a patient, let's say you're a medical patient and you have a real illness, you know, you got to walk into some spot and be like, let me get the Snapple Crickle Cravelax and, like, you know, for my chest pain. Like, it's like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I don't know. It's just confusing, man. Yeah. It's confusing.
You said it best on the album, I Miss Reggie.
Yo, R.I.P. Reggie, man.
R.I.P. Reggie.
Y'all acting like, R.I.P. Reggie, man. Because y'all acting like, you used to hang out with Reggie, man. They did.
Bring Reggie back.
Bring Reggie back a little bit. We got to dust him off, you know what I mean?
So, I find it fascinating that all this is happening under the mayorship of a police officer.
I don't. I think you couldn't script it any better, man. You couldn't. He out here smelling the bags.
Yo, did you see that? He smelled it.
He's like a cartoon.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, first of all, I believe he's getting high. Look.
Mayor Mixie is absolutely
he's wild for the night.
Yeah.
But also keeping it a buck, like, I recognize that I still got a little trauma, because, like, I'll be in New York And I'll go to light, and I'm like, let me get over here. Like, I still almost want to hide a little bit. And everybody's like, no, you good, Cav. And I'm like, yeah, I used to get thrown in the, I've been in the tombs before. You ain't been in them tombs. You got to understand the reference point. Like, a cat out here in New York, 22 years old, going buy weed in the store. He don't know them struggles, yo. You know what I'm saying? Yep. It's like, yo, you have no idea.
And like, whenever I see people smoking by a police officer, it just blows my mind.
I'm like, that ain't fair. They changed the rules for y'all.
They ended up shutting down all the weed spots, like all the illegal spots. And like, that just made the
illegal though. Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Illegal
weed spots selling legal weed. It's like a video game. It's like, come on, man.
But so like, that just made everybody bring their weed outside.
Shakespeare in the park, man.
It's the most confusing shit because they'll be like, they'll have bags.
Yeah.
And the police are just sitting there like this. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? But my question to you is, I've only lived under 3 mayors. I lived under Eric Adams right now, Bloomberg. I mean, not Bloomberg. De Blasio was before him. And then I got here right at the end of the Bloomberg thing.
Okay.
And
the Berg.
Yeah. You're born and raised. I know how I would rank them. How would you rank? I got the mayors that you've lived under.
Ooh.
Koch, Dinkins, Giuliani, Bloomberg, de Blasio, Adams. If you had to rank them from
best to worst, Dinkins best. Oh, come on. Yeah. I shout out Dinkins. I shout out Dave Dinkins on Private Stock.
That was a softball line.
Yo, yeah. Dave Dinkins is the best. And after that, they all tied for the worst. Because they all got something crazy. De Blasio shopping his black kids around. You know, it's always something, man. Bloomberg, he berging it. He was, come on, Bloomberg. You know what I mean? Man. He was like, if like Giuliani was, let's say, like the mob boss mayor kind of guy, like Bloomberg is like the white collar killer man. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's like the white, he's taking back videotapes. You know what I mean? So, they all pretty bad after that. And also, I think David Dinkins didn't get credit for laying the foundation for things that Giuliani later got credit for. You know what I mean? Yeah. He was very, whatever, man. I wasn't an adult to commute, to understand all those things, but in hindsight, that's what it feels like. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you once you live long enough, you get that perspective.
Yeah, I was a little kid when the riots happened, but I knew what was happening though. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so switching gears to style, you are a polo aficionado fan.
So they say. You know
have
what
a lot. In my mind, you're like a low life.
Oh, I'm head to toe, head to toe.
So what's your connection to polo? Like, how long have you been collecting pieces?
Oh man, a hot minute. Well, first, I got to give reverence to the OGs. You know what I'm saying? I was at an age to observe a lot of OGs do their thing in their teenage years. I recently posted a photo that I saw circulating online, and it was actually my babysitter and his people. Yeah, it was my babysitter. He was like a big brother figure, who my mom trusted for me. Like he was like a latchkey kid that watched me. You know what I'm saying? But they're in these books, these coffee table books, right? Like Bury Me with the Lone One. So I'll see photos now in this Instagram era of them, in their teenage years. And Supernova Slum, shout out Supernova Slum. He was down with it too, you know what I mean? So these are teenagers that I watched when I was a kid, and I was heavily influenced by them. I thought it was amazing. And also, I talk about it on Different Type Time. How like the first time I ever seen ski goggles was like on the train, right? I think Ralph Lauren is America's preeminent designer, right? Yeah. But you can have any style and wear Ralph Lauren, right? Now, they show you that, right? Like you could be like a Texas oil tycoon, or you can be from Old Money, Upper East Side, or you could be like Aspen Ski Lodge, right? And there's all these looks from Ralph Lauren. But with me, I'm using it now to the point where I've been wearing it so long that it's now a vehicle for the art as well. Because it's part of me translating like Black Americana. It's like instead of having Black people doing white things in the ads, I show Black people doing things. They just happen to be wearing Ralph Lauren. Yeah. So I'll put Ralph Lauren on them, but I didn't change their style. I put them in their same style just with Ralph. You know what I mean? And then I'll film them like that. So I'm using it kind of like multifaceted. But yeah, I got gang warfare out here. You know what I'm saying?
Speaking of Upper East Side, the other day I happened to stumble upon Ralph's coffee shop.
Oh, amazing.
Did not know.
I don't even drink coffee, and I'm like, amazing, amazing. You know what I mean?
I didn't even know it existed. Like, but I got a coffee cup, and part of me wanted to just keep the cup as a souvenir.
Oh, keep the cup, man.
I didn't keep the cup.
Gotta keep the cup,
I
man.
should have kept the cup.
I recently been getting into cook tableware and all of that too.
I saw you have forks and
I got crazy, man.
Rugs. So I was gonna ask what your rarest piece is. Like, what's the thing you cherish the most, or like, what's the thing that's the most like quirky?
Man, I don't know. I don't know if I'm in that echelon yet, because you still got the like Thurston Howell III. You got these people, you know. Shout outs to DV Alias Christ. Like, there's cats out here that are still in the culture that are like, I see some of their collections and I'm like, are you rich?
Wait, speaking of, did you get Polo Gate? Were you on Polo Gate?
Oh man, man, don't
you missed it too?
I missed Polo Gate. I think
niggas was getting chandeliers.
Yeah, I'm that type of person. I'm that type of person. Like, I have, you know, pretty much every rug in my home is a Ralph Lauren rug, and like things you couldn't even, like mugs, keychains, like things you wouldn't imagine are Ralph Lauren in my home for sure. Vases and, you know, stuff like that.
So you just have a rare item museum, basically. You live in a rare item museum in my mind.
Maybe. Well, you know what it is too? As a young person, Ralph Lauren's showrooms opened me up to a bunch of other things.
I got you.
So I collect antiques now too. So I have steamer trunks and trunks like that, or certain vintage furniture pieces, glass pieces. And I don't know if I would have known about those things if I didn't start going to certain polo stores as a young person. And I was like, I kind of want my bedroom to look like this, yo. I'm on some Indiana Jones in the hood type shit, you know what I mean? And I started like that, and it's just opened me up to appreciate quality goods. Yeah. You know?
And for people listening who don't know what Polo Gate is, long story short, I'm not gonna explain the full thing, but there was it's hard to even explain and wrap up in 30 seconds, but just know that there was a moment in time where the internet got a hold of a discount code that was extreme and went crazy on some polo shit. And speaking of that, you know, like,
R.I.P. Dallas Penn, yo.
R.I.P. Dallas Penn, man.
R.I.P. Dallas Penn, yo.
It don't fucking stop, man. But speaking of that, like, how has fatherhood affected? Well, not speaking of that, but like when you said that, it made me think about your son growing up in the house and seeing the aesthetic, you know what I'm saying, and seeing you. How has fatherhood affected your art and just affected your life in general?
Well, it's funny you mention that, because my son will be like, look, Dad, the man on the horse. I'll be like, yeah, you know, the man on the horse. But I don't know what he thinks it is, but he sees a lot of the man on the horse at the house. Yeah. So he comments on it. But in general, my son is on the intro to my album, just doing ad-libs. He calls rapping doing yo. Right?
Doing yo?
Yeah. So he'd be like, Daddy, you doing yo? I'm like, yeah, yo.
It's like yoga, but.
Yeah, because you'd be like, yo. So he'd be like, I want to do yo. Like he told me, he said, one day we were in the crib and he was like, that's what you do for money, Dad? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get on the airplane and do yo, like you, Dad. I was like, it ain't that simple, but all right, I got you, you know. It motivates me, man. I like that he thinks it's something cool, even though he doesn't fully understand what it is. And I like that he knows what his dad does, and I don't have to feel ashamed about it. I'm proud of the art that I make, and I'm proud that he could be a part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's not a situation where you're like, don't listen to this until you turn 18. Like, it's just like, observe it.
Yo, Mega Ran put out a kids album last year, and I play it for my son all the time. And I bring it up in, like, teachable moments. You know, like, yo, Lord, nobody likes a bully, man. Remember the song? Nobody likes a bully. And he'd be like, yeah, nobody likes a bully. Yeah. So shout outs to Mega Ran.
Yeah, shouts to Mega Ran. That's my guy. Man.
Yeah, man. I was like, we needed that kids record. Yep. So yeah, you know, the music is a byproduct of the culture, right? Yeah. I can't shake that hip hop is part of my cultural identity, so I'm not gonna hide that from my child.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Last question. I know you said you have another album coming out, or more albums coming. You got one with Raz Fresco, right?
Yes, I do have one with Raz Fresco.
The other one you're talking about something different.
Something different.
You look like I sprung some shit on you.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good. Shout outs to Raz Fresco. Peace to the gods, yo.
Yeah. Yo, the bakery. We don't know each other, but I absolutely just be watching his videos.
Yo, Baker's Club, yo, super prolific. I actually pulled up on him. Similar deal with Quelle. I pulled up on him in Toronto, and in like 4 days we made a whole album. You know what I'm saying? But he gets busy like that. Yeah. Raz don't play, you know. But I mean, in terms of formal releases, Different Type Time came out in the spring, and in the fall, the date probably be announced soon. I have another album coming out on Backwoodz.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's called Sesay. Or I guess that's how you pronounce it, like Cinemaphile, right?
Yeah.
Right. And it's entirely produced by Child Actor. Yeah. So completely different project from different type time.
Does it play into like your film interest background?
I just think something about the project and the music is very cinematic. We almost like scored this record, you know, and it allowed me to focus on a specific chapter of my life, as opposed to where different type time is like a pastiche of many things.
Okay. When is that dropping?
November.
November? Oh, like tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, November.
All right, before we get out of here though, I'm just putting you on the spot a little bit, but if you wanted to kick a verse or something, you know what I'm saying?
Nah.
No verse? All right, you gotta pay for them fucking verses because Death Tape 2 is out right now.
Yes.
So go drop that bread to hear the verses.
On cavwins.com. That's where you can find that.
Which, and I didn't get to touch on it either. Like, I wanted to really big you up for like the direct-to-consumer independent.
Thank you. A
Like,
lot of people follow. I mean, I didn't invent that model.
You didn't invent it.
But a lot of people were inspired to pursue that after Black Cottonwood, and they told us so.
It's the thing of like a lot of people say they do it, and then they kind of like go back to where they were. But like, I like the fact that like I went to your Bandcamp when I was doing research, and I was like, oh, it stops at Chief. Like you gotta go to the web, you gotta go to his website.
So I do have a Bandcamp. I think that's a different one with Chief on it. My Bandcamp has these projects.
Oh, okay.
But when Bandcamp got sold at one point, I was kind of uncertain of like who owns it now and what happened. So I just started putting my albums at astronomical prices on Bandcamp. And then if you read, it's like, you want to buy it the regular price, buy it over here. You know what I mean? So we figure all of this out.
Yeah, so thank you for giving me that little market strategy tip. I'll be doing that. Expect a $200 Donwill album on Bandcamp.
You'd be surprised. People be buying it, yo. Yeah, yo.
Not mad at that.
Yeah.
Cam, thank you so much for coming through, man.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, it's the Almanac of Rap Show. I got opinions and they all factual. No news, just information that you won't be able to use unless you're at a dinner party trying to impress who's in attendance with endless tidbits of nonsense. We're gonna have a good time, I promise. YouTube rabbit holes, Reddit deep dives, pulling out old interviews from the archives. Styles, fads, trends, all of that. It's the Almanac